Officer Miller thought he had a stolen car case, but he was about to arrest the chief judge. What happened next sparked a viral showdown and changed policing forever. The afternoon sun caught the menacing glint of the silver handcuffs as Officer David Miller strode purposefully toward the sleek Obsidian Mercedes-Benz S-Class. His hand, heavy with 15 years of precinct authority, rested on his holstered weapon, his chest puffed with unshakable certainty. "Step away from the vehicle now," he commanded, his voice echoing across the courthouse lot, a sound that made every head swivel in their direction. Judge Alicia Hayes, a woman of quiet, formidable dignity at 42, stood by her car, a vision of elegance in a navy blazer and pearls. Her briefcase, clutched close, held the fates of 3 men on death row. Within its leather confines lay the very evidence that would decide their future. For 18 years she had dispensed justice from her elevated bench, a beacon of fairness in a world often devoid of it. What Officer Miller couldn't possibly fathom, what would have haunted his darkest nightmares, was that he was mere moments from attempting to arrest the chief judge of the Superior Court herself. This was the very woman who had presided over his testimony countless times, the same judge who, in just 23 minutes, would deliver a groundbreaking verdict in the most talked-about police corruption case the city had ever seen. "Ma'am, put your hands on the hood of the car," Miller barked, his voice dripping with the absolute conviction of someone who'd never been wrong. This vehicle was reported stolen from Beverly Hills just 3 hours ago. 3 hours earlier, Judge Hayes had been deep in her chambers, meticulously sifting through the final arguments of State Burr Captain Frank Miller, a high-stakes police corruption trial that had ripped the city in two. Captain Miller, a 25-year veteran with a chest full of medals, faced accusations of planting evidence, accepting bribes, and a web of cover-ups that had unjustly imprisoned innocent people. The entire nation watched civil rights activists clamoring for justice, while the police union cried foul, claiming persecution. Political careers teetered on the brink, and Judge Hayes held the pivotal decision that would either restore faith in the justice system or confirm the public's worst fears about systemic corruption. Her phone buzzed then, a text from her daughter Emily. "Mom, taking your car to UCLA for my interview. Mine's in the shop. Thanks." Olivia had smiled, a wistful memory of her own law school days flooding back. Emily, so bright, so driven, was following in her footsteps, destined for greatness. The Mercedes had been a hard-earned gift to herself when she was appointed to the bench, a gleaming symbol of her incredible journey from the humble housing projects of South Central LA. She'd simply grabbed her backup keys. The 2019 Honda Civic, less flashy, would get her to the afternoon's momentous verdict delivery. What she didn't know was that Emily, rushing against the clock for her interview, had parked the Mercedes in Beverly Hills and, in her haste, had forgotten to properly lock it before hurrying into the law school. "Officer, there's been a misunderstanding," Judge Hayes stated calmly, her voice resonant with the quiet authority that had commanded courtrooms for nearly 2 decades. "This is my personal vehicle." Miller, however, circled the luxury sedan, like a predator sizing up its prey. In his prejudiced mind, the equation was stark and simple. A black woman in professional attire, plus a $95,000 luxury car, could only equal theft. His 15 years on the beat had hammered one lesson home: trust your gut. "Ma'am, I'm going to need to see your registration, insurance, and proof of purchase for this vehicle," he announced, his voice booming loud enough for the growing cluster of courthouse staff to overhear. "And I'll require an explanation for how you came to possess a car that costs more than most people make in 2 years." Suddenly, Sarah Jenkins, a court reporter, emerged from the courthouse, her eyes widening in immediate recognition of Judge Hayes. Her mouth opened to call out, but Miller's aggressive stance made her falter. Instead, she discreetly pulled out her phone and began recording. "The documents are in my briefcase," Judge Hayes replied, her professional composure unwavering despite the slow burn of humiliation in her chest. "I'll retrieve those for evidence," Miller declared, reaching for her briefcase. "Standard procedure for stolen vehicle recovery." "Officer, that briefcase contains confidential case files protected by judicial privilege." "You cannot, ma'am. If you have nothing to hide, you shouldn't object to a search." Miller cut her off, his hands now hovering over his handcuffs. "I've got probable cause for vehicle theft and obstruction of justice if you keep interfering with my investigation." The courthouse parking lot began to swell with onlookers. Lawyers, clerks, reporters, and court officers materialized, their phones appearing like a silent arsenal. The air crackled with electric tension. Everyone sensed they were witnessing something utterly unprecedented. Elena Rodriguez, a young public defender, pushed through the crowd. She recognized Judge Hayes. Instantly, the woman who had patiently guided her through her very first trial, who had offered unwavering support when she'd stumbled through complex legal procedures. "Officer Miller," Elena called out. "That's Judge." "Ma'am, step back," Miller barked, not even bothering to turn. "This is police business. Interfere again, and you'll be arrested for obstruction." Judge Hayes's phone vibrated insistently. Chief Justice Arthur Green was calling. The verdict, set for 4 p.m., loomed large. It was now 1. The courtroom would soon be packed, bristling with media, attorneys, and the anxious families of victims whose lives hinged on the Miller corruption verdict. "Officer Miller," Judge Hayes said, her voice dropping to the low, authoritative tone she reserved for unruly attorneys. "I need you to listen very carefully. I am Judge Alicia Hayes of the Superior Court Criminal Division. This is my personal vehicle. I have legitimate business at this courthouse, and you are actively preventing me from performing my judicial duties." Miller actually laughed at her declaration. "Lady, I've heard every sob story in the book." "Judge Hayes?" He shook his head derisively. "Judge Hayes is a 60-year-old white man. I've testified in his courtroom dozens of times." The crushing weight of his error struck him like a bolt of lightning. Miller had confused her with Harold Hayes, the recently retired civil court judge. His ingrained assumptions about race, age, and gender had conspired to create a perfect storm of ignorance. "You're thinking of Harold Hayes, Civil Division," Judge Hayes calmly corrected. "I am Alicia Hayes, Criminal Division. The courtroom where you testified in People vs. Rodriguez, People vs. Stanton, and People vs. Miller, no relation." Miller's confidence wavered, a brief flicker of doubt, but his pride, a rigid, unyielding thing, wouldn't allow him to retreat. "Anyone can claim to be anyone. I need proof, and stolen car reports don't lie." With a dramatic flourish, he pulled out his handcuffs. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for grand theft auto and impersonating a public official." "Stop right there." The voice, sharp and commanding, sliced through the parking lot like a gunshot. Captain Jessica Riley emerged from the courthouse, her 20 years of law enforcement, instantly recognizing a career-ending catastrophe unfolding before her. "Miller, what the hell are you doing?" Riley demanded, pushing through the stunned crowd. "Captain, I've got a stolen vehicle recovery, and the suspect is claiming to be a judge." Miller replied, his handcuffs hovering mere inches from Judge Hayes's wrists. Captain Riley's gaze fell upon Judge Hayes, and recognition dawned brightly in her eyes. She had testified in Judge Hayes's courtroom just last month in a harrowing domestic violence case. The judge's unshakable calm under pressure, her incisive legal questions, her unblemished reputation for fairness. It was utterly unmistakable. "Officer Miller, lower your handcuffs immediately," Riley ordered. "But Captain, the stolen car report." "Officer Miller, you are attempting to arrest Judge Alicia Hayes of the Superior Court, the very judge who has presided over dozens of cases involving our department. The same judge who is scheduled to deliver the Miller corruption verdict in." Riley glanced at her watch, her voice tightening. 11 minutes. The color drained from Miller's face, leaving him ashen, like water pouring from a broken dam. The crowd surged closer. Sarah Jenkins's Facebook live stream had been running for 6 agonizing minutes. The viewer count skyrocketed, 12,212 2,893, 5,000, 6,002. Comments flooded the screen, too fast to read. "This can't be happening. Cop about to arrest a judge. This is insane. Career suicide in real time." Judge Hayes remained perfectly still, her hands now resting at her sides, a posture that radiated an almost regal judicial authority. Her years of navigating aggressive attorneys and defiant defendants had forged her for moments precisely like this. "Captain Riley," Judge Hayes stated, her voice carrying the weighty gravitas of 18 years on the bench. "Officer Miller has violated my Fourth Amendment rights, threatened me with false arrest, attempted to search confidential judicial documents, and prevented me from performing my constitutional duties." She then produced her judicial identification, the gold seal gleaming in the afternoon light. "Perhaps Officer Miller would like to examine my credentials now." Miller stared at the ID card, his entire career flashing before his eyes. 15 years of service, just 2 years shy of retirement eligibility, his pension benefits, his health care coverage, everything suddenly dangled by a fragile thread. Judge Hayes, there was a stolen car report. Officer Miller, Judge Hayes interjected, her voice sharp but controlled. The stolen car report you referenced. What was the license plate number? Miller fumbled for his radio. Dispatch Unit 47, requesting confirmation on the stolen Mercedes license number. Unit 47, stolen vehicle is license plate 7GKJ928, black Mercedes S-Class. Judge Hayes calmly reached into her purse, retrieved her car keys, and pointed to the key fob. Officer Miller, what is the license number on my vehicle? Miller's gaze dropped to the license plate. 2H. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd as they fully grasped the horrifying reality. A police officer had just attempted to arrest a sitting judge based on nothing more than racial profiling and baseless assumption. No matching license plate, no actual evidence, just raw prejudice cloaked in the uniform of authority. Officer Miller, Judge Hayes continued, her voice imbued with the quiet, potent power that had decided thousands of legal cases. You attempted to arrest me without verifying basic facts. You assumed criminal activity based solely on my race and gender. You threatened to search confidential judicial documents. You prevented a sitting judge from performing her constitutional duties. She paused, allowing each damning accusation to sink deep into the stunned silence. But most importantly, you did all of this while I was preparing to deliver a verdict in a police corruption case that will determine whether this community trusts law enforcement to police itself. The crushing irony hit the crowd like a physical blow. Miller, through his own egregious misconduct, had potentially tainted the very case designed to address police misconduct. Captain Riley swiftly activated her radio. All units, Captain Riley requesting immediate supervisory response to courthouse parking lot. Priority 1. Within minutes, 3 more police cruisers screamed into the lot. Lieutenant Colonel Mark Sullivan, a 28-year veteran, renowned for his unwavering commitment to accountability, emerged from the lead vehicle. His assessment of the volatile situation was instant and devastating. Hayes, he said, recognizing the judge immediately, Your Honor, I am profoundly sorry for whatever has transpired here. Colonel Sullivan, Judge Hayes replied, her voice firm. Officer Miller attempted to arrest me for driving my own vehicle. He assumed I had stolen it, refused to verify basic information, and threatened me with handcuffs, based solely on racial profiling. Sullivan's jaw tightened. He had devoted years to painstakingly rebuilding community trust after a string of previous scandals. One officer's prejudice, he thought, could unravel decades of progress. Miller, report to headquarters immediately, Sullivan ordered. You are suspended pending investigation. Sir, I was following protocol. Miller protested. Judge Hayes's eyebrows arched, mirroring the expression she used when dismantling dubious testimony. Officer Miller, what protocol instructs you to arrest someone without matching the license plate to the stolen vehicle report? Miller's mouth opened, but no sound escaped. What protocol allows you to search judicial documents without a warrant? Silence. What protocol permits you to detain a judge reporting for constitutional duties based on assumptions about race and car ownership? The questions landed like precision legal strikes, each one meticulously exposing another layer of his profound misconduct. Sarah Jenkins's Facebook livestream had now exploded to over 47,000 viewers. News crews were scrambling, sirens wailing in the distance. The courthouse steps were packed with employees, all transfixed by the unfolding drama. Judge Hayes checked her watch. 1:56 p.m. Colonel Sullivan, I have a verdict to deliver in 4 minutes. The Miller corruption case cannot be delayed further. The mere mention of the Miller case sent a palpable chill through every law enforcement officer present. Their colleagues' fate and the public's fragile trust in police accountability hung precariously in the balance. Your Honor, Sullivan said, his voice grim, we will handle this situation immediately. Miller, surrender your badge and service weapon. Miller's hands trembled visibly as he unpinned his badge, the piece of metal that had defined his very identity for 15 years. His service weapon followed, placed on the hood of a patrol car almost like evidence at a crime scene. Officer Miller, Judge Hayes said, or rather, Former Officer Miller, you have a choice to make. You can accept responsibility for your actions and learn from this experience, or you can deny what everyone here witnessed and face the full legal consequences. She opened her briefcase, revealing a small digital recorder. I've been recording this entire encounter for potential legal proceedings. California law permits single-party consent recording of police interactions. Your words, your actions, your assumptions, all documented. Miller's face went utterly ashen. A recording of his misconduct would obliterate any hope of appealing his termination or securing security work anywhere else. Judge Hayes, Colonel Sullivan said, his gaze fixed on her. What would constitute an appropriate resolution of this incident? It was a question that would not only define Miller's fate, but also reshape the department's fraught relationship with the community it was sworn to serve. Judge Hayes surveyed the crowd, young lawyers, seasoned court officers, eager reporters, concerned citizens, all waiting to see if justice would truly be served or merely swept beneath a bureaucratic rug. Colonel Sullivan, this incident represents a teachable moment. Officer Miller's actions vividly demonstrate the dangerous intersection of racial bias and abuse of authority. But punishment without education serves no one. She turned to address Miller directly. You have three options, and your choice will not only determine your future, but also serve as a critical example for officers across this state. The crowd leaned forward, breathless. Social media exploded with anticipation. This was justice unfolding in real time. Broadcast to thousands. Option 1. Accept full responsibility. Complete 200 hours of bias training and serve as a case study for police academy reforms. Testify before the state legislature about the inherent dangers of racial profiling. You will keep your pension, but forfeit any future career in law enforcement. Miller's eyes widened, hope flickering. Option 1 offered dignity through accountability. Option 2, resign immediately with full benefits, acknowledging that your mindset represents outdated policing that has no place in modern law enforcement. You will avoid criminal charges but accept a permanent barring from any security or law enforcement position. Option 2 provided an escape, but one with undeniable consequences. Option 3, face a federal investigation under Title 42, Section 1983 for civil rights violations, risking criminal prosecution, civil liability, and the complete loss of all benefits. Fight the charges and potentially face prison time. Option 3 meant a brutal legal battle with profoundly uncertain outcomes. You have 60 seconds to decide. Your choice will be binding and public. The parking lot fell into an eerie silence, broken only by the whisper of the wind and the distant hum of traffic. Miller's career, his reputation, his family's financial security, everything hung precariously on this single agonizing decision. Sarah Jenkins's live stream viewers surged past 75,000. News helicopters now circled overhead, a stark reminder that this story was going national before Miller had even fully processed his options. Miller began, his voice cracking. I choose option 1. I'll take responsibility. I'll do the training. I'll testify about what I did wrong. The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs. Such accountability was a rare commodity in police misconduct cases. Typically, officers fought charges to the bitter end. Judge Hayes nodded, a measured approval in her gaze, the same look he reserved for defendants who truly accepted responsibility. Officer Miller, your choice demonstrates the profound possibility of growth through accountability. However, this agreement requires immediate implementation and measurable outcomes. She produced another document from her briefcase, a memorandum of understanding she had drafted even as they spoke. This contract outlines your training requirements, legislative testimony schedule, and ongoing accountability measures. Your compliance will be monitored by civilian oversight and reported quarterly to the State Attorney General. Colonel Sullivan stepped forward. Judge Hayes, our department will implement whatever additional reforms you recommend to prevent future incidents. Colonel Sullivan, this incident reveals systematic training failures that demand systematic solutions. She handed him a second document, a comprehensive reform proposal, mandatory bias training for all officers, robust civilian oversight of misconduct investigations, body cameras for all interactions, and quarterly community forums where citizens could voice concerns directly to leadership. These weren't mere suggestions, they were requirements, backed by judicial authority and relentless public scrutiny. 6 months later, the police academy training room buzzed with a palpable, uncomfortable energy as 150 cadets watched former Officer David Miller approach the podium. His uniform was gone, replaced by civilian clothes. His badge by a visitor's pass. "My name is David Miller," he began, his voice steady, carrying the raw weight of confession. "6 months ago, I nearly destroyed my career and violated the constitutional rights of a sitting judge because of prejudices I didn't even know I carried." The room fell silent. Real police officers rarely admitted mistakes, especially publicly. "I saw a black woman with an expensive car and assumed criminality. I refused to verify basic facts because my assumptions felt more reliable than evidence. I attempted to arrest Judge Olivia Hayes, a sitting judge, because I couldn't imagine a black woman legitimately owning a Mercedes-Benz." He clicked to his first slide, displaying the courthouse parking lot video that had gone globally viral. This video has been viewed 2. It's been shown in police academies, law schools, and civil rights seminars across the country. It represents everything wrong with policing based on bias instead of evidence. Cut to Judge Hayes's chambers. She reviewed the quarterly report on police reform implementation. The numbers painted a compelling picture of systematic change. Bias training completion at 94% for all officers. Body camera compliance at a perfect 100% in traffic stops. Civilian complaints down a remarkable 67%. Community trust surveys up 45%. Use of force incidents decreased by 34%. Her phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Mom, got into UCLA law. Following in your footsteps. The Mercedes is finally fixed too." Olivia smiled, remembering that scorching afternoon when prejudice had threatened to derail justice. Instead, it had ignited and accelerated reform. Miller then stood before the California Senate Judiciary Committee delivering testimony that would shape statewide police reform legislation. "Senators' unconscious bias isn't limited to individual officers," he explained. "It's deeply embedded in training that teaches us to see threats instead of citizens, suspects instead of community members. When I saw Judge Hayes, I didn't see a distinguished jurist. I saw stereotypes that 15 years of poor training had burned into my mind." Senator Isabella Lopez leaned forward, her expression grave. "Mr. Miller, what specific changes do you recommend to prevent future incidents?" "Mandatory bias training from day one of academy instruction. Community immersion programs where officers live and work in the neighborhoods they'll patrol. Civilian oversight with real authority to investigate and discipline misconduct." His powerful testimony was instrumental in the passage of Senate Bill 1847, the Police Accountability and Community Trust Act, mandating statewide implementation of bias training and civilian oversight. 1 year later, Judge Hayes stood on the very courthouse steps where news crews had once gathered to report her near arrest. This time, however, she was announcing the establishment of the Judicial Excellence in Police Accountability Foundation. This foundation will provide scholarships for young people pursuing careers in law enforcement and criminal justice, she told the gathered crowd, her voice clear and strong. But scholarship recipients must commit to serving communities with dignity, respect, and unwavering accountability. In the crowd, David Miller listened intently, flanked by his wife and teenage daughter. His year of intensive training, heartfelt testimony, and dedicated community service had utterly transformed him from a symbol of police misconduct into a passionate advocate for systemic reform. Captain Riley, now Chief Riley, approached the microphone. Judge Hayes's incredible grace, under pressure, and her profound commitment to education over punishment has truly transformed our department. We are no longer the same police force that nearly arrested a sitting judge. We are better, because she demanded better. As the ceremony concluded, Miller approached Judge Hayes. "Your Honor," he said, his voice laced with genuine gratitude, "I wanted to thank you for giving me a chance to make this right." "Officer Miller," she replied, using his preferred title despite his civilian status, "you chose accountability over defensiveness. That courageous choice created more transformative change than any punishment could have ever achieved." The shocking encounter in a courthouse parking lot had become a potent catalyst for statewide police reform. Judge Hayes's unwavering dignity under immense pressure proved that justice delayed is not always justice denied. Sometimes it is justice profoundly improved through education and accountability. Officer Miller's brave decision to accept responsibility and champion change showed that even our most humiliating moments can blossom into powerful opportunities for growth. This was the story of a near arrest that evolved into a blueprint for reform, proving that sometimes the most challenging encounters forge the most meaningful transformation. When we choose accountability over defensiveness and education over punishment, we truly build a justice system worthy of the communities it serves.